Sale Newson was excused from appearing in Newcastle local court today. He was instead represented by solicitor Mark Ramsland, who told the court the prosecution had recently served new material and the defence would need time to review it. The matter was adjourned for 6 weeks. Newson was charged with the murder of Miss McBride last June. The 31-year-old mother of two went missing from Muswellbrook in September 2014. Her remains were found around 2 years later near Scone. A second man, James Caneen, was also charged with murder. His solicitor, Chris O'Brien, told the court the 26-year-old, who's also facing unrelated offences, was ready to proceed to trial and that he would like all his matters dealt with as soon as possible. But the magistrate refused, saying that's not going to happen. The murder charge will take precedence. Both men's cases will be heard again next month.
Beautiful green grass, a sight that should be a relief for farmers who've long been praying for rain. But something among these fields is killing their cattle.
We've lost probably over 100 on different places. Some lost over 20, 25, 30 head. And then there's been sporadic small numbers losses as well on a number of places.
Just what's causing the deaths is a mystery Hunter Local Land Services District Vet Digby Rayward is trying to solve. One theory is that a fungus is affecting some of the Kikuyu pasture. Another, that an extensive dry period followed by rapid growth is causing problems.
That rapid growth is probably high in sugars and carbohydrates, and we think it might be affecting the rumen.
There's no specific treatment for the poisoning. However, cattle can recover if they're removed from the toxic pasture before they've consumed too much.
Mr. Rayward says that's why it's important for cattle to have access to an alternative feed source. An information session on the issue will be held at Tocal Agricultural College tomorrow. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
But particularly for Carrington, special permeable pavers to help with the low-lying areas and the drainage here in the main street of Carrington.
Fresh from the oven, but this isn't your average lunchtime special. The chefs behind this shepherd's pie, students from Callaghan College.
So the youth have come in and cooked, and we've used some rescued food from Oz Harvest as well as some purchased food.
The hot lunch was put on at Maryland to celebrate 2 special weeks on Australia's community calendar, with Seniors and Youth Weeks overlapping in 2018. And the junior cooks certainly enjoyed today's company.
Not many people do it, and I reckon it's good to talk to everyone. Everyone's can be nice.
There's a bit of a gap there. They might not actually socialise with a lot of the older people, definitely probably not cook for them.
The majority of the feast's ingredients were rescued from across the Hunter. The day also trying to teach both generations about food waste, budgeting and healthy eating.
It's good that you're saving food that people are chucking away and, making it into good meals instead of just letting it go.
Our biggest waste of all is bread. So we've made a bread and butter pudding today to use up some of the bread.
Samantha Long, NBN News. Charlie Hayes is a bright and bubbly 7-year-old girl. She has a rare genetic condition that doctors have struggled to diagnose.
We've tried throughout the years to get a genetic diagnosis, but she has features, but only 1 or 2, so she doesn't fit in anything.
But now help could be online. A first-of-its-kind website is being used to match genetic conditions by using facial traits, in a bid to unravel the mysteries of at least some undiagnosed cases.
Up to half of those children will have facial features which can provide a clue to diagnosis. However, we now know that testing all the known genes that cause intellectual disability only allows us to make a diagnosis in around 30%.
Dr. Tracy Dudding-Bith came up with the idea after seeing facial recognition technology being used for counter-terrorism. Patients and doctors can upload a child's image to a database. An algorithm then filters through thousands in seconds, matching facial traits to narrow down a diagnosis. Dr. Dudding-Bith hopes geneticists and families across the globe will embrace the technology.
This system matches very quickly, so it can match thousands of photos against every photo in the database.
Until now, geneticists would physically swap images at conferences. FaceMatch has around 4,000 images so far, but needs others to get on board.
So many children out there, so many adults out there that, haven't been diagnosed. So any information, any chance, you've got to take it by the horns and grab it.
For more information, just visit our website. Samantha Long, NBN News.
I think it's definitely right. It's pretty accurate. The fans were fantastic there, so I had a great time there, and I think most people who were there at that time or at some time in their career, always speak so highly of the place because it's a nice place to play when you're doing well. I'm not sure. They might not like me very much anymore.
Lodge terrorised a family in New York and had claims of abuse levelled at him by a former girlfriend, so it's no surprise his return to the NRL has divided opinion. Brown looked at recruiting the 22-year-old before he signed with Brisbane and believes he's an outstanding talent who deserves a second chance.
The one that took drugs and drank alcohol is not a person that anyone wants in the game or wants them around their daughter, but I think the Matt Lodge that's been about for the last 700 days that doesn't drink alcohol and doesn't take drugs is a good person, and I think all of us in the rugby league community should judge him on who he is now.
This weekend, Lodge and his teammates travelled to Newcastle off the back of a humbling loss to the Titans. Former Bronco Tautau Moga won't line up for the Knights after suffering the 4th ACL injury of his career, but Brown is confident he won't retire.
The fact it's the first time he's done this one and he knows what's required, and I'm sure it's going to be a bit of a tough time for him at times, but he's been through it plenty of times and I'm sure he'll come back.
Nathan Ross is keen to get his hands on the ball more often as he replaces Moga in the centres. He'll reunite with Ken Seo on the wing after they trained there together in pre-season.
Rather than move people around and change people all over the field, it was just a nice, easy way to go. And you know, the few times Rossi's played there for us, he's done a good job over the last couple of years.
We've got a brand new stage for stage 2, and we're also introducing a fat tyre crit, which will be in the foreshore of Newcastle. So bringing port to port back to the port is a really exciting thing, and we'll also be introducing a kids race to be part of this.
Lincoln Gambrell isn't yet 2, but he knows these surrounds all too well. We had around 100 visits last year, like alone, and we were coming at least twice a week, and then if there were injuries or admissions, we had to spend more time. So it was very taxing.
He has haemophilia, a disorder where the blood doesn't clot properly. It mostly affects boys and is rare. The John Hunter Children's Hospital treats just 30 patients like Lincoln.
As you can imagine, for these families, they start off with a healthy little baby and then they're given this diagnosis of a bleeding disorder, and all of a sudden the world is full of dangers for them.
A simple bump can be a cause for concern, but with the help of a team of specialists, the Gambrel family is learning to navigate life with the disorder.
We've learnt how to see what is just a bruise and what is a bleed. We have also learnt to give his medication at home now. He's actually got a port now where we can access his port to put medication in rather than a vein. So that has been a life changer for our family.
A new monthly hospital clinic brings together a team, including a specialist nurse, physiotherapist, psychologist and social worker, saving families time and stress.
It's really a multidisciplinary effort to give these children the best possible attempt at a routine life that they should deserve in the way that any other child at school might have.
Knowing what we know now, it's given us a lot of hope in the last 6 months, knowing that he will live a pretty normal life from possibly the age 10 onwards.
And that's something to celebrate.
High five.
Oh, you got one.
Years of late nights, study groups and cramming all at an end.
I didn't know what to expect from graduation, didn't think too much of it until very recently, and yeah, it's actually really incredible being here with my cohort, and I feel incredibly proud of myself.
Newcastle's Deputy Lord Mayor among the first to don the cap and gown, swapping the chambers for the Great Hall, his environmental engineering degree, 7 years in the making.
I've been lucky enough to work full-time throughout my degree, of course, as well as my council duties, so I've only been able to fit in part-time study, but it's certainly been worthwhile at the end.
There were hugs and smiles all round and a whole lot of proud parents. The first graduates of 2018 came from the Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment. Tonight, our future doctors and nurses will take the stage, with education, arts, business and law to follow next week.
It's official. I'm actually an engineer now, which is different.
Yeah, it hasn't really hit yet because, I'm used to going home on the weekends and doing assignments.
What does that mean?
50 grand.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
It may not be a real-life emergency, but these students and this drone are doing a vital job.
There's been some major flooding and they're the first on the scene with their drones and they need to capture some aerial photography.
It's part of a 2-day program called She Flies, an initiative with RDA Hunter, introducing young girls to possible careers in science, technology, engineering and maths.
We're actually losing females throughout the pipeline of these fields from as early as primary school.
Today, 30 students were given an insight on how to code, allowing them to create a flight path. While some teams experienced a few hiccups,
it didn't go how it was supposed to, it went the wrong way.
There was plenty of good feedback.
That one looked pretty successful.
It's not what was meant to happen, but it's good.
Program co-founder Karen Joyce has been mapping the Great Barrier Reef for 20 years, the last 5 using drones.
It's not just about learning to fly the drone, but this could be something that the girls are interested in getting into, software to hardware to GPS, analysing the data.
Talia Sav, NBN News.
Three set pieces we conceded, so I think that's not really a bad thing, but it's something we can fix pretty easy. So, and personally, there's always room to improve. So yeah, I'm looking on the things I can do to improve my game.
Their teams are at the opposite ends of their seasons. But this weekend they'll both play vital games at home.
The Broncos coming up here to play the Knights, and I'll be at that game as well. I'll probably be at both games, definitely going to the Broncos Knights.
Since moving to Australia 40 years ago, Merrick has had plenty of involvement with rugby league, working with Craig Bellamy and the Storm during his time with Melbourne Victory.
We're both team invasion sports, so you got to get the ball down the other end, so it's all about decision making, time and space. But on top of that, there's a lot of sports science we can share, but managing athletes is probably the most important thing.
Brown has plenty of respect for the round ball code.
The Jets have obviously really excelled this year, haven't they? Actually caught up with Ernie a few weeks ago and we had a chat about how he recruited and what he did with his budget and how he made it all work, which was quite interesting.
The Knights mentor worked with Sydney FC's Graham Arnold while coaching the Dragons. Then, during his 6-year stint in England with Huddersfield, he shared a ground and advice with the manager of that town's football team. Brown hasn't made it to a Jets game yet, but is keen to attend their semi-final.
I used to go a lot at Huddersfield and I actually enjoy watching the game. I can't tell you why sides win or why they don't win, but I enjoy watching it.
As he tries to resurrect the NRL franchise, Brown believes there are plenty of things he can learn from Merrick.
To nail second spot, working with, I'm pretty confident their budget would be a fair bit different to Sydney FC and the Melbournes and those sides out there from what I understand about football, and to do it with that sort of budget I think highlights what a good experienced coach can bring to town.
Just don't ask for advice on Aussie rules.
I actually broke my finger on an AFL ball once trying to demonstrate how to mark against a 6-year-old. That's a true story.
The Lees-trained Furor only won his maiden at Taree in January. He's now won 4 out of 5. On Saturday, he'll start from barrier 8 in the $2 million Australian Derby.
Yeah, it gives him an option of being wherever he wants to be. He should be, I'd say, just forward of midfield, so he should get a nice run in the race.
Lees believes Le Romain will struggle to contend with Ben Smith's In Her Time and the favourite Red Zell in the TJ Smith Stakes.
It's probably not a race that he will figure in the finish, but it'll be a nice stepping stone to his target race, which is in 2 weeks' time.
He's more confident about Prized Icon and Invincible Gem in the $3 million Doncaster Mile.
I thought Prized Icon's a chance of sprinting well fresh. We've added blinkers to his gear and I think he'll react really well with those. And Invincible Gem, she's had 2 lead-up runs and she's in good form on the track, and I think she'll acquit herself well.
Meanwhile, Scone trainers Rod Northam and Paul Massara will line up My Taggerson and Careless Choice in the country final.
When we first bought our house, we bought it deliberately in Mayfield because it was well serviced with public transport. We also recently sold our second car to rely further on public transport, and now we find that some of the services that we had no longer exist.
The Resources Minister arrived looking the part, but some don't want the hunter to play a part at all. Inside, mining industry leaders awaited the keynote speaker at the Hunter Coal Festival. Matt Canavan is on a multi-day tour of the region.
I'm just a little jealous, coming from Central Queensland myself, that you guys have seemingly taken the mantle as the coal capital of Australia.
The Senator arrived fresh from that self-described frank and robust discussion with AGL. He's concerned about workers if Liddell's closure goes ahead.
We clearly have to make sure that we protect the jobs in this region. The Tomago aluminium smelter are not threatened by AGL's decision. That the jobs in the manufacturing industry in this region are not threatened by AGL's decision. I welcome the fact that AGL has said today that they would consider proposals, but I would encourage them to do more.
It's only day one of the 10-day mining festival at Singleton. While tensions simmered, a more family-friendly vibe is forecast for the weekend.
It's all about coexistence of the community and the coal industry. We all know that the coal industry is important to our community, and we often forget that we need to celebrate that.
But there was no celebration from those not allowed inside. Georgia Ma, NBN News.
Reaching for the sky, a crowd of eager students were welcomed into the fast-paced aerospace industry. Greeted by experts from Williamtown's BAE Systems hangar, this was more than your average classroom.
We're taking them through various zones here today to talk to the people, the people that actually work here.
It was a behind-the-scenes look at what's involved in working with military aircraft. From engine mechanics to learning about the workings of an ejection seat, the Year 9 and 10 students took note.
It's helped me decide what type of job I would actually be interested in getting to do with being an engineer or a mechanic.
But it's the addition of this virtual reality realm that really sparked interest. The technology demonstrates what the hangar will look like once the RAF's next-generation fighter, the F-35A, arrives later this year.
The demand for aero skills, for engineers, for tradespeople, for suppliers is only going to increase as the F-35 arrive.
It was a great experience. It felt like you were a completely different place.
Over the next 5 to 10 years, the aircraft maintenance company and its partners will need to recruit more than 200 people just to meet demand. Talia Sav, NBN News.
Rough, tough and dusty. The Australian 4-day enduro has returned to the Hunter, a fitting homecoming for a milestone event.
It started in Cessnock 40 years ago. It was actually started by my father, John Hall, so it holds a bit of a special thing to me as well.
And records are being broken. This running boasts the most riders ever and huge spectator numbers, while also helping Cessnock do a roaring trade.
Dungog held this event 4 years ago and they only had 220 riders. We've got 350 riders. It increased the turnover in the town by $2.5 million. So if we don't put $4 or $5 million into the town, I'll be surprised.
The enduro isn't for the faint-hearted. It's 4 days of 10-hour racing, with competitors clocking up more than 750 kilometres by the end. And the 40th edition isn't just for the up-and-comers. A vintage division has been introduced for the first time.
We've actually got, I think, 8 original riders that rode 40 years ago and are riding today.
The finals will be held at Cessnock Racecourse tomorrow. Samantha Long, NBN News.
How do you feel?
I'm lighter and I'm very happy. Well, my aunt's been doing it for the last couple of years and I thought it was a really nice thing to do, so I gave it a go myself.
Out of the cold and into the fire, Ken Seo is back in the NRL.
Bit mixed emotions at the moment, yeah, but excited to be back and hopefully help out the boys and do my job.
He isn't hiding his disappointment at starting 2018 in reserve grade after playing in 21 of Newcastle's 26 NRL games last season.
It's been a tough ride and some goals is to start the season, but obviously that didn't start the way I wanted to. But you can either take it as a positive or take it as a negative. But, all the boys that went back to Reggie's took it as a positive and, we just kept working hard and work on the things that we need to work on to get back into grades.
Nathan Ross will move into the centres with Seo to line up on the wing, a somewhat unfamiliar combination. They're expecting plenty of traffic from the dynamic James Roberts, but feel confident after a long pre-season.
He trained at centre and then I train on wing, and then there'll be a time where I'll be on the centres and he'll be on the wing. So it's good to get that combination going, and you never know, during the game we might swap and then look after each other.
The Broncos are coming off a shock loss to the Titans.
I've been pretty disappointed about last week's game, so we're getting them at a tough time.
But Mitchell Pearce says the focus for the Knights is improving themselves after 2 tough back-to-back losses. He believes the wind hasn't been taken out of their sails.
No, not at all. If anything, with this group, everyone's really motivated to learn, and I think Brownie's made that clear. If you're not, you won't be here. So we're motivated to get it right on the field on the weekend, and that's our first goal against the Broncos.
A little bit frustrating is a bit of an understatement. Extremely frustrating would probably be a little bit better way to put it, just because you hate to be a guy that comes in as an import, you play 3.5, 4 games, and all of a sudden you're in a boot.
An early morning emergency in Newcastle's CBD. Flames leaping from an abandoned building, sending plumes of thick grey smoke into the sky. Emergency services quick to the scene as the blaze took hold.
We're just trying to extinguish the fire without going into it because of the danger of it collapsing.
Since around 7:30, crews fought from the ground and above. But it was clear the old National Park Bowling Club on Smith Street was no match for the blaze.
We'll probably be here for most of the day to extinguish it. There is asbestos in there, but it appears to be safe at this stage.
Surrounding streets were shut down as 6 fire and rescue crews did their best to prevent it from spreading to neighbouring shopping centres and sporting grounds.
Residents say the boarded up building is regularly used by squatters and that it was lucky no one was inside at the time. Police are continuing their inquiries into what exactly sparked the blaze.
Last year, the council-owned land was earmarked as a potential site for an indoor sporting complex. Forensic teams spent the afternoon scouring the scene for answers. Talia Sav, NBN News.
The problem with that mainly is that the car park behind the Delaney Hotel, the council car park, the only exit is on Council Street, so all traffic will be then diverted into the residential streets of Cooks Hill.
A stunning marriage of wines and equines. The Hunter Valley looked every bit the part, playing host to the region's first Polo in the Vines event, now part of the Urban Polo Circuit.
This is currently part of the world's largest polo series and it's growing like crazy.
It wasn't just about the horses, there was plenty of fashion and of course champagne. Celebrity chef Guillaume Brahimi plating up for some special VIPs.
The Hunter Valley came up against the country's other leading wine regions to secure the landmark event, and it's not a one-off.
The specifications were to have the field flanked by the vines themselves. We looked all around Australia for about 3 years, quite frankly, and the setting here is absolutely amazing.
So amazing, Urban Polo have signed a 7-year deal with the host Dark Horse Vineyard.
We're here to stay, we're here to develop this.
The economic value of that to the region is huge. It just shows the diversity that we have in terms of events around the region. This weekend alone we've got Polo in the Vines and we've also got a little bit of Italy out at Broke and there's the Benin Stomp Festival in Cessnock.
What are you looking forward to today?
Something a bit different really. I've never been to the Polo before, Alex has, and yeah, it's a new experience.
The fashion, the food, the wine.
And the food is fantastic.
Yes. And apparently there's some horses at some stage.
Georgia Marr, NBN News.
The kids enjoy themselves, you know, just a relaxing end to what's been a fantastic week, I suppose, but we needed an area where we could fit a few thousand people in.
It was a bronze medal for Lauren Parker, but after everything she's been through, it feels like gold.
I'm so stoked for the bronze medal today, and just being here at the Commonwealth Games after my accident is an achievement in itself.
Unsurprisingly, she produced a gutsy race. She led into the last leg, even crashing and flipping her wheelchair at the finish.
Silly mistake, but I'll never do that again.
But that was never going to stop her from reaching the finish line. And there waiting was Lauren's biggest fan. Bridie is a budding triathlete, arranging to meet Lauren after seeing her story on 60 Minutes.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Be a Paralympian.
Like Lauren?
Yep. Just not giving up in times that are hard, and Bridie's very much done that her whole life. So to see Lauren go through what she went through and then not give up and come to the games only a few months after everything happened, she was just like, Mum, she's so cool. She's so amazing. All I want to do is inspire young kids and to get into sport, and I just want to inspire everyone from my story and give everyone hope in their own lives.
A few photos, a hug, and even a gift from her hero, the goggles she wore in today's race, a special memento to help Bridie's own sporting dream.
She won't stop talking about it. It'll be constant.
A third straight loss for the Jets, one that Ernie Merrick wasn't hiding behind.
We won't be playing a grand final if we're going to play like that. And the sooner the boys get that message, the better. If we play like that in a finals match, it's going to be embarrassing.
It was a record-breaking night in Newcastle, but none of it made Jets fans smile. The home side's attack was blunted.
The lack of service to Roy was incredible. It was absolutely poor.
Leaving the boss scratching his head.
I would say that there is self-doubt on some of the players, and there's some of the players that are just not playing anywhere near their best football. And it's got a knock-on effect.
The lights went out mid-game. The Jets hoping it's not an omen for their season. There will be changes for the final round F3 derby clash.
Absolutely. I'm not putting that side out again.
One, maybe skipper Nigel Bogard. He was supposed to still be weeks away from a return. Now he may be rushed back in. This week he'll be given every chance of proving his fitness.
Yeah, we could get him hopping on one leg. He's pretty good. I don't know about that.
It's a bit of a surprise, but you know we thought she'd come here and run well. We weren't here just to make up the numbers. Still pinching myself, you know. I can't believe we've won 2 Group 1s, 2 different horses, especially too.
stomping up a storm. Thousands poured into the main street, a celebration showing off the region's world-class winemaking industry.
We want to showcase that business in Cessnock, we are open for business. We are really proud of Cessnock. We're proud of what we've got in town. We're proud of the retailers and the businesses that we've got.
From enjoying a tipple to living up to its namesake, there was something for every man and their dog.
It's just a real community show. It's great that we can put on everything like this and get the whole community involved.
1 tonne of grapes will be crushed today. That stomps down to about 14,000 millilitres. It's all about giving a helping hand, or foot in this case, so I guess I better get started. And while my technique leaves a lot to be desired, others were all business.
I am very experienced at stomping. First thing is you need a bit of weight. I'm pretty right there. My problem is I've only got small feet, so that's a hassle. So you need big feet, fairly heavy, to make sure you get every drop of juice out of the berries.
The main attraction, the chance to be crowned Stomp Champion.
It is the most popular by far. So last year we actually had somebody come from New York just to do our stomp.
It's fast, furious and fun, albeit a little messy. The aim, to squeeze the most juice.
I didn't even know what was happening. I just got dragged into it. I thought it was great picking.
Meredith Gibbs, NBN News.
Events like this just go a long way in helping us continue a free charge service to the community. We've got a great crew of curry mongrels here and they look after us pretty well, and they're great with the tracks, and they've done a lot of work over the last 3 months.
Through adversity, this is a sensational addition to the Newcastle tourism visitor economy. All looking around our foreshores, all going to our restaurants, our cafes, maybe even staying a night on shore to get over that cabin fever.
Bennett has been criticised for leaving the Knights worse off than when he arrived. On Friday, he claimed that wasn't the case, saying Brown has unbuilt what he left behind.
He's won 7 premierships, he's coached for 30 years, and I ain't ever publicly bagged Wayne or anyone. And then he comes and has a shot at me like you just don't need to. I don't think he needs to behave like that myself, but the reality is, Baz, is when Wayne came to town, if he thought with his big head rather than his little head, I wouldn't have had to rebuild the joint. You can take that, shall we, if you like.
That set tongues wagging.
When you work in the public, if you're going to put someone else down, you've got to be ready to take whatever someone's going to give.
Today, Alex McKinnon tried to calm the situation.
I think it's been completely taken out of context. Nathan was referring to Wayne's short-term mindset in regards to winning competitions at the Newcastle Knights. He was sacrificing the club's long-term success for his own short-term success, and it was definitely had nothing to do with his relationship.
The comments came after what Brown has labelled the best performance since he arrived at Newcastle. The Knights were denied an early try. Kalen Ponga produced a try-saver at one end before setting up Lachlan Fitzgibbon for the Knights first. Mitchell Pearce later described Newcastle's defence as world-class. It set up a chance for the halfback before the break. Bennett believes Pearce was the difference between the sides. He created Newcastle's second. The Broncos crossed twice to cut the margin to 5, but the home side hung on for a memorable win.
A top-of-the-table clash featuring a handful of former Socceroos and A-League stars. Just minutes in, a Jaffa's own goal was thwarted by Brad Swancott's quick thinking. Both teams were fired up, but it was Scott Smith who cut through first, running half the field in a dominant solo effort. Quick work from Riley McNaughton almost saw Smith bag a second. Charlestown's Cal Lewis with another chance, but veteran keeper Swancott was up to the challenge. The Jaffas came out guns blazing in the second half, bringing former Jet Ryan Griffiths off the bench to try and boost their chances. Smith worked his magic. Another brilliant solo effort almost doubled the Blues' lead, but he couldn't finish it off. Lambton's Ben Hay providing the boost the Jaffas needed, running the length of the pitch to bag the equaliser. Another few chances came and went, with the game looking certain to end in a draw, before sub Messiah Sakamoto proved the difference in the dying seconds. Charlestown now sitting 5 points clear at the top of the ladder. Samantha Long, NBN News.
The Crusaders came into the game with a flawless record. Maitland's Terrell Turner was intent on changing that statistic. Callum Jenkins had a huge game for the Central Coast, 24 points and 15 rebounds. Former Mustang Mitch Reuter didn't receive any special treatment, but still managed to hurt his old club with 16 points. The Mustangs got within 4 in the final minutes, but it was the Crusaders who improved their record to 4-0. At Broadmeadow, the Hunters started slow against the Bears and never recovered. Cassidy McLean had a tough night, shooting just 33% and giving up 5 turnovers. Jasmine Howe played every minute of the game, but also struggled, making just 4 of 13 shots. 4 of the Bears starters reached double figures as the visitors claimed a comprehensive 27-point win.